So let's talk about discipline for a second, but before I do that, I want to ask you guys a serious question. How exactly do you rebuild trust with yourself after you've lost it? Because there have been countless times where I failed at many things. I felt frustrated and I felt like I couldn't get my life together. But something significant changed for me when I stopped seeing discipline as a punishment and started viewing it as freedom. And today I'm going to share the mindset shift, personal stories, and Bible verses that help me rebuild trust with myself and start living a life with purpose. So first of all, discipline is about building trust and not perfection. I'm going to read you a Bible verse from the book of Proverbs that I absolutely love. Proverbs 24:16. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. I used to think that discipline meant getting everything perfect, right? From performing well in my academics, impressing my parents, impressing the people around me, just being a person who is deemed as very disciplined and someone who excels in life. But I quickly learned that life doesn't work that way, especially if you're thinking in that specific way. And when I read this Bible verse, it reminded me that even in tough times when people and our heroes do fall, the thing that helps us resonate with them is that they're able to rise up again from the challenge. Think about Robert Downy Jr. for a second, right? So he's just recently won Best Supporting Actor in his role in Oppenheimer, I think it was, when he played Louis Strauss. But what a lot of people don't know is that he was in prison many years ago. And I can't remember what he went to prison for. I think it was to do with drug rehabilitation, and he had some issues with substance abuse. But he turned his situation around, improved on his acting skills, got better roles, used his talent very wisely, and a few years later he ended up winning Best Supporting Actor. That's an example of someone who we all look up to, someone who's rise out of those ashes and actually made something of his life. And for myself, what I realized was that it was a lot harder to stay disciplined when I had been drinking excessively, right? So as soon as I finished high school, I'd be going out pretty much every weekend, drinking a lot of alcohol with my friends, like on the parties, when it was weekends away. And what I quickly found was that when it came to doing tasks that were very important to me, I didn't have the discipline and I didn't have the motivation to focus on those tasks, simply because I just didn't build trust in myself. I didn't believe that I could do those things, because anytime I would set up a challenge for myself and feel like I can't really achieve it, or I found it very difficult, I would use partying and going out as like a vice to distract myself and a reason not to do those tasks. And it felt good in that like present moment when I was going out with my friends and drinking. Like, it felt really fun at the time, but the next morning I would always wake up feeling like I shouldn't have done that, or I should have been more honest with my friends and just said, look, like, this is the task that I'm trying to do. But it's very difficult when you're coming out of high school, you're trying to figure out who you are. So for myself, in order to build better discipline, I decided to go with what I call a 6-6 split. So I would go 6 months of the year with drinking alcohol, like on a recreational base, and then I would go the next 6 months of the year not touching alcohol at all and just using that time to focus on my goals. And that really helped with my discipline quite a lot. And the next Bible verse is taken from Galatians 6 verse 9. Let us not become tired of doing what is good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. So here's the thing, social media in general will just romanticize this idea of discipline. You'll see influencers posting a day in their life or a week in their life, and I'm guilty because I've done this as well. But what we don't really show is the missed alarms, the missed workouts, or days when you generally don't feel like doing anything, and it's really difficult to give in to discipline. Like, during those times you rely on your motivation, which is the wrong thing to do, but ultimately the discipline doesn't show itself and you don't show your audience. And of course, if you don't see that on social media, you think that these influencers are perfect, you think that people are perfect, but they're absolutely not. Real discipline is messy, and it's about showing up even when things aren't picture perfect, because the reality in itself is that you'll miss some days, you'll need to readjust your plans, but if you stay consistent, you'll achieve those things over a long period of time. I want you to think about this for a second. We all know Usain Bolt, right? So 100-meter world record holder. Do you guys realize that he trained 4 years? He trained for 4 years to run 9 seconds. That's crazy. And I think in one of the athletic meetings, he actually had a false start in the beginning and he had to wait an additional 4 years just to have that moment again. And as a result, he ended up coming first. But just think about that. You train 4 years to run 100 meters in 9 seconds or sub 10 seconds. You train for 4 years, and as that gun goes off, you get a false start. You automatically disqualified, and you have to wait another 4 years to run that time again. That's discipline in itself. And just think about that story every time you think about giving up. Usain Bolt had to wait 4 years to do that again. In entrepreneurship, we see this time and time again. Entrepreneurs fail, but the reason they're able to get back to the position in which they were in is because they've gained the necessary skills to give them the confidence to reach that point again. But you can't do that if you don't build those skills and if you're not disciplined in that period of time in which you skill stacking. The next thing is that discipline is about freedom and not punishment. The next Bible verse is taken from John 8 verse 32. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So here's the biggest shift. I stopped thinking of discipline as forcing myself to do hard things, but instead I started asking myself, what habits bring me closer to God's purpose for my life? And that mindset shift made discipline feel like freedom instead of being a punishment. There was a time where I hated the word discipline. It felt like a huge cloud was hovering over me. And what I did is that I started praying to God to actually help me see discipline very differently. And what I realized is that it took a lot of the pressure off of me, because I realized that instead of seeing it as a punishment, I started seeing it as fulfillment. It's about doing things that align with His word, and it's about doing things that align with His will and bring joy and not stress for yourself. So now it's time to answer the big question. How exactly do you rebuild trust with yourself? I don't know if you guys are religious, but something that really helped me was just picking one habit to stick to. And I know this advice may be generic, but I'll share my story with you guys anyway. I downloaded a Bible app, the Bible app that you can find on the App Store and the Google Play Store. And every single morning, I'll open up this app. I don't know if you guys can see it. Hold on, let me do this. I'll open up this app and there's this thing called the verse of the day. So I'll spend the first 15 minutes of the day just reading the verse of the day and actually using that time to speak to God, speak about my troubles. And I do this on the way to gym. So gym is about a 15-minute walk and I like to work out in the morning. So I'll just use that time to just speak to God about my troubles and just get some stuff off my chest. And I found that by doing that in the morning, by looking at His word and just getting the wisdom from the Bible itself, it's helped me tremendously. And if you aren't a religious person, what I would recommend for you to do is first thing in the morning, instead of checking your phone, just leave it like this, just leave it flat down and use that time to just consolidate your thoughts and think about what it is that you really want out of the day. Think about your most important task of the day and think about doing that first. And what you'll find is that over time, when you do this for a long period of time, you at least slowly start to become more comfortable with your thoughts throughout the day. So that's a huge hack that you guys can do if you're just trying to look for that one habit to do in the morning. So if you've been struggling with discipline, I hope this video serves as a reminder to you. Build that small trust with yourself and stop seeing discipline as a punishment and see it as something that brings freedom and brings fulfillment to yourself. And the way you can do that is to start consolidating your thoughts properly and to view discipline a lot differently. And remember to start small and focus on progress over perfection. I know it may be generic, but it's absolutely true, right? There's a reason why people say this over and over again. You need to focus on progress over perfection and rely on God and rely on God to actually help you if you are a religious person. So I want you guys to let me know in the comments, what's one habit that's kind of helped you guys rebuild trust with yourself and ultimately build your discipline. And share this video with someone who may need to hear this message, especially going into the new year of 2025. But until then, take care, guys.